And if we admitted the European Union to NATO, that would mean a world war. If we admit Ukraine to the European Union, it means war. If Ukraine were a member of the European Union today, then today every European country, including Hungary, would be at war with the Russians. Therefore, admitting Ukraine poses a war problem for us, and it also poses an economic problem. The Ukrainians have said that $800 billion are needed for the operation of the country over the next 10 years, and a further $700 billion are needed for their military expenses. And from where? The Union has said that it is fine, they will give this. I was sitting there at that council meeting where this was decided. 3 of us voted against it, and only 1 spoke. We voted against it. We, the Slovaks and the Czechs, achieved that when the next 90 billion euros are sent to Ukraine, it will not burden us. That is what happened. So we stayed out, managed to stay out of it. And the thing is, these amounts are so large. I am talking about 800 billion euros and 700 billion euros. Just imagine that this would cover 60 years of expenditure of the Hungarian pension system. You could pay for the entire Hungarian family support system for 40 years with this. So these are enormous amounts. And it is written here that I say no to further financing of the Russian-Ukrainian war. I say no to having us pay for the functioning of the Ukrainian state for the next 10 years. I say no to the increase in utility prices due to the war. Everyone will receive this in the coming days. Please kindly fill it out and send it back. I need it. Now, when I have to fight against Ukraine's EU membership, and I am going to win this battle, I can fight because I can say there was a vote in Hungary. The people voted. The people decided that they do not want this. They can bite my head off or chop me into pieces here in the Brussels Council room, but this will not change the situation. And I must say, in the next 100 years there will not be a parliament that votes for us to support the Ukrainians in this way. We help them, but to support them financially and say thank you for our money is impossible. And I am not saying that the European Union should turn its back on the Ukrainians and slam the door as if we never saw them. I am not saying that. I am saying that just as we did with the Turks, the European Union should make an agreement with them. What and how? But let us not admit them as members, because if they come in as members, you cannot get them out anymore. Let them into your house and they will put you out. You cannot let such a large country in, because that will be trouble. Therefore, a contract, cooperation that can be modified or terminated is possible, but granting membership status, since it involves rights, is not. They are still outside now. Just imagine what you hear from President Zelensky now, the voice of an applicant. What will happen if we let them in? If he is speaking this way now to those he wants to join, what will he say then? Winning friendship and gaining the sympathy of Hungarians is a strange process when he is dishing out slaps to me and demanding that Hungarians give up their money. This will not work. We absolutely cannot allow them to take our money in the end. If you remember, I went to Kiev and then to Moscow. I told President Zelensky that I think he is in trouble. The military reports, the economic background, the deployable weapons, the manpower and the overall battlefield situation indicate that time is not on their side. Time is working against them. I came to help if he allowed it. If he realized that time is not on their side and he was interested in peace, a quick peace or at least a ceasefire, then I would try to negotiate the Russian part of this in Moscow. But for that I needed him to want it. He rejected me and was dismissive. He said I misunderstood the situation. In his opinion, time was on their side. The longer the war went on, the more likely they were to win. They would defeat the Russians on the front line and then exact satisfaction from them. I told him that then Biden was still the president and that there would be an election. I said that next year a man named Donald Trump would be president, whom I know, and he would not give a single penny. He would not let America be dragged into a war. He told me that we do not know who will win. Well, here we are. If you allow me, I will tell you what happened with President Putin in our most recent discussion. I asked him how committed he was to occupying the Donetsk region. The Russians have set the goal of occupying Luhansk and Donetsk. Currently, they have occupied around 80% of Donetsk. They told me that the Ukrainian army fights well but is running out of people, and that Russia is stronger. They said they had decided to reclaim the remaining territory, no matter what. Many Ukrainians and many Russian soldiers would die, but they would do it. The choice offered was either to help make the Ukrainians understand it is better to surrender and make an agreement, or Russia would seize it by force and decide what happens next. I am not saying this is friendly or acceptable, but this is the reality. In war, strength matters. This is how the situation looks from the Russian perspective. Why is the war risky for Hungary? Because Europeans have decided to support the war and give everything to Ukraine. The result will eventually be sending soldiers. There is already a written agreement between the French and the British to send soldiers to Ukraine. And if that begins, soldiers will also go from here, especially if there is a government that cannot say no in Brussels. A sovereign country can be pushed into war if it does not resist. If the people do not resist and leaders in Berlin and Brussels do not stand for peace, then it can happen. The people of Europe do not want war. They do not want their money sent to Ukraine either. Yet they tolerate it. Why? Because they are being deceived. European leaders claim the war will not cost people a penny, that loans will be repaid by Russia after defeat. This is an illusion. They will never defeat Russia on the front line, and instead of Russia paying, Europe will pay more. This requires enormous effort to explain, just like at home. Migration has changed European cities. War is similar. Western leaders invested a lot of money and cannot admit it was a mistake. They keep throwing good money after bad. But we have our own goals and national interests, and we stand by them. We will buy gas and oil from Russia. We will strive for good relations with Ukraine once the war is over. Everything has its place. We must not abandon our national standpoint in favor of Brussels or anyone else. We must hold on to our national interests.
$25 करोड़ गरीब गरीबी को परास्त करके बाहर निकले।
For the good of our nation, let's work together and let's truly make America great again.
The fastest news breaks.
Requested PM saying that look, you will have to speak to Putin and to Zelensky.
The biggest news makers.
The relationship with India is probably the most important bilateral relationship the US will have for the rest of this century.
The capital delivered quite an election result today.
Expert analysis.
The million-dollar question today is how to stop this dance of death.
Ground reports.
I'm standing at the crossroad of the Kumbh Mela. Behind me are more than 100 entry ghats.
Long-form interviews.
Exclusionary politics is reflected in Manipur case as well. You don't bother because this is a small state.
Deep dive into burning issues.
It's often said DRC could be the richest country in the whole world. It's because of what sits underneath.
Why exactly did the US topple the Sheikh Hasina government?
HD videos. We don't just break news, we break it down.